Hello, and welcome back to our Games as a Relationship series. I'm Cliff, and I'm joined today by Richard. Previously, we discussed community and the role that micro communities play in games as a relationship these days. And today, we'll be discussing some of our findings on content in these games, going over like how much do players expect and how the content gives players confidence in the game that they're playing. So, Richard, tell us more about content.
Sure. As you can imagine, when it comes to service-based or games as a relationship, as we call them, type games, the demand for content is huge. And in fact, when we talk to players, what we find as is the promise of service-based games, of live service games, is that content. Players expect a lot of stuff and they want it all the time. So the promise of a live service game from a publisher developer point of view is, hey, we're going to have the service game, we're going to have a constant revenue stream, which is correct. But for the players, all they're thinking of is, ooh, good, more stuff for me to have in the game. So when you're talking about a service game or a game as a relationship, what players are hearing is content, and they expect to get a lot of it. And in fact, the expectation is on weekly or monthly delivery of all types of different kinds of contents, ranging from like competitive tier resets all the way to DLC and story additions, new characters and whatnot. In fact, 45% of the respondents said that the motivation for purchasing a microtransaction for them would be to extend and enhance their own experience in the game, not necessarily to gain a competitive advantage over other players. So, really, what this is about is players wanting more stuff in the game. They want more story, they want more narrative, they want more content, they want more stuff to do. And when you start talking about service-based games, this is what they really want. So the burden is really on the developer and the publisher to have a fat pipeline of stuff, probably even before launch. If you're doing it after launch, you're probably already behind.
Yeah, and Richard, you talk a lot about content there, but how are people feeling about microtransactions in these games?
When you're talking about a service game, when you talk content, you're really also talking microtransactions because that's the primary way that content's delivered. So there's a couple of points of microtransactions. One, attitudes towards them are actually fairly positive. They have changed over the years, but that positivity, there's a couple of caveats there. One, they have to feel fair. That's a big thing. This came up in a lot of our qualitative discussions. Microtransactions have to feel fair, meaning, and by fairness, we meant, or players meant, you should be able to earn through playing what you can buy. That's a key point when it comes to fairness. The second point would be that it's not necessarily about cost, it's about value. So players are really tuned into, and what I'm paying for, is it valuable? And does it feel like something that should have been in the game to begin with? Because if that's the case, they kind of feel ripped off. The third thing with microtransactions is their presence in a game can actually signal to players like, hey, this game's going to be around for a while. This you can invest in this game in confidence because the developers and the publishers clearly have a roadmap of content, and so you should feel okay about investing in this game because it's going to be around a long time. So the idea that maybe too much microtransactions up front or too many up front could scare people off, that might still be true, but having a big content pipeline and having a lot of microtransactions or even just some signals to players that the game's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, totally. Those microtransactions lead to that level of confidence for players. Thanks, Richard, for walking us through the findings here. And we've got more content coming on our Games as a Relationship series. So if you're interested, there's a link down in the description that you can sign up to stay notified of when the next video comes out.